Welcome, everyone. It's great to see each of you here. I'm Anita Huang Tashima, and I'm on the board of directors for the Canadian Learning Trust. I did add a link to the website in the chat for those of you who want it. It's under construction. So again, as I mentioned, we will be recording this session. So it'll be available to all of you and to others after the webinar. We will be posting it on the CLT website. Now, for those of you new to CLT, CLT is a national nonprofit that promotes lifelong learning for all Canadians. Our CLT vision is to grow a prosperous Canada that's enriched with the love of learning. And our CLT mission is to encourage and promote lifelong learning for all Canadians. On this note, then, we are very pleased to host our second CLT webinar series session on the future of learning. And as before, we're continuing with our focus on STEM and STEAM. That's science, technology, engineering, and math. And STEAM is STEM plus arts. So again, our theme this year at CLT is to encourage STEM and STEAM learning, starting at a young age and throughout the lifetime. So I am now very excited to introduce Dawn Ball, who is our guest speaker today. Dawn is a retired professional engineer who has a passion for the global environment and a passion for STEAM education, together with mentoring kids in STEAM. Dawn has worked in various industries, including aluminum, tech, defense, and space. And for the last 20 years of Dawn's career, he was self-employed, and he helped clients to manage programs related to applications of satellite imagery. He's also taught project management courses, and he has been volunteering in elementary schools since 2011, helping teachers with science and technology through the Engineers of Tomorrow's Engineer in Residence program. And for the past year, Dawn has also volunteered with Climate Fresk. It's an international NGO that provides climate change workshops. So today, Dawn is going to spend the bulk of the webinar, talking about the Engineer in Residence program, EIR, and he will let us know how we can help. At the end, Dawn will also very quickly introduce Climate Fresk, but he will be coming back to join us later at some point this year to go into much more depth on this topic. I'm going to hand it over to Dawn now to talk about the Engineer Residence program, and then we'll open it up for questions for a discussion at the end. So Dawn?
Thank you very much, Anita. Good evening, everyone. I'm speaking from Ottawa, where it's 7:34, but some of you are in different time zones, of course. So I'd like to talk to you about the Engineer in Residence program. So Micah, can you please put up slide 2 of that deck? Thanks very much. No, the slide before that. So this is the Engineer in Residence program is managed by a not-for-profit called Engineers of Tomorrow. So next slide. And I borrowed this slide deck from them. And so I just wanted to give you a quick overview and a few statistics and give you an idea of how it looks in the classroom. Next slide. So one thing they found is 85% of girls between grade 10 science and drop out between grade 10 science and grade 12 physics. And probably related to that, there are women are not very highly represented in the engineering profession. There's a Engineers of Tomorrow is participating in a big push called 30 by 30. So they hope that by 2030, 30% of new entrants into the engineering profession as certified engineers are women. And they also have found that 74% of educators report that many students graduate never having met an engineer. So when they think about career options, that's not one that comes to mind. This picture, I love this picture, and this was in a classroom where I was. This was a competition that we called the Engineering Challenge. We didn't run it this year, but we've run it well, more than a decade. And this picture is of a group of grade 4 girls who just learned that they had won their school's competition in competition with grade 5 and 6 teams as well. That's real excitement on their faces. Next slide, please. So EIR stands for Engineer in Residence, but we also like to say that it's E for experiential, I for inclusive, and R for real. So showing real engineers, real application of problem solving in the real world. Next slide. And this is kind of a busy slide, but on the bottom left, you can see that it's really a program that matches volunteer engineers with teachers who would like help with science and technology, and it's kindergarten to grade 12. Having said that, I'm in elementary school, and I think our numbers are higher in elementary school than in high school. And I think part of the reason is that high school science and technology teachers are specialists in science and technology, whereas in elementary school, they're usually not specialists in science and technology, and they really welcome help in the classroom. On the bottom right, you see a quotation from Bev Takaoka, who is an EIR volunteer. I feel like I found my tribe. I love connecting with the students and sharing passions. I never thought I'd still be doing this 5 years later. And there you see the logo of Engineers of Tomorrow, the organization that manages this program. Next slide. And so this gives some statistic, and the picture there is that's Leah, and there's a Leah on the call, but this is Leah, who's an engineer in residence in Ottawa. And in the 21-22 school year, we had 316 volunteers in 47 school boards across Canada. I have to say that our numbers have gone down since then. Um, it might be, I don't know, lingering impact of the pandemic. I don't know. But during the pandemic, as you can imagine, we had a lot of virtual links. And virtual links, well, it's a lot better than nothing, but it's not the same as being in person. So that may explain why the numbers have gone down. Before the pandemic, we always tried to match people to a school that's very close. But during the pandemic, we realized we could do virtual matches, and we'd have someone in North Bay matched with someone in Labrador, perhaps. But I think the satisfaction level with that is not the same. So that may explain why the numbers have gone down. They are expecting the numbers to recover again. Next slide, please. So this shows, now this program started in Ontario in 1998, but it's now coast to coast in Canada. And this slide shows where the schools were. And this is a few years old, but it gives you an idea of where the schools are. You can see concentration in Ontario, quite a bit of activity in Manitoba, uh, and in BC, and we have a few in the prairies as well. Next slide. And this shows where the engineers are. And as I say, because there are some virtual matches, they're not necessarily geographically co-located. Next slide. One thing I'd like to point out is that in the early days of the Engineer in Residence program, the Professional Engineers Ontario, which is the licensing body for professional engineers in Ontario, was our sponsor. So the volunteers had to be certified engineers. For reasons of their own, they stopped being our sponsor. And so now some of our volunteers are not certified engineers. Some of them aren't engineering graduates. They might be computer scientists. They might be technologists. They might have other technical backgrounds. They're volunteers who would like to help teachers with science and tech and STEAM and STEM. The timing is flexible. Once a month is a guideline that the engineer can visit the class, but personally, I'm retired. I visit classrooms a few times a week. Um, and it's customized. Whatever the teacher would like, if the volunteer can deliver, that's what they do. Next slide, please.
Oh,
So
sorry, Don, to interrupt. I just wanted to point out, Jason in the chat did ask, are there schools involved east of Ontario?
we've had we've had some schools in Quebec, but I don't think they lasted, and I'm not sure why. Uh, we're expecting activity from schools in Halifax. I'm not sure if that's happened. I think we've had a few in New Brunswick. Um, haven't had big penetration in Eastern Canada yet, let's say, but
Perhaps,
we're working on it.
yeah, perhaps we could talk about how we could help introduce more schools to the program. Something we talked about at the end.
I'll come to that in just a minute. Now, when it says join us May 17th, this slide is from a few years ago, but I just wanted to show you. I think this is a tweet from Joel Scott, who I guess is a teacher. We had another awesome visit from Simon from the EIR program. And that's the kind of review that we get from teachers. The kids love it and the teachers love it. Next slide, please. So in terms of how you can help, coincidentally, our registration is going on right now. And if anyone on the call or anyone in the network of CLT would like to register either as a teacher or as a technical volunteer mentor, please go to eir.ca and you'll see there's an apply button. And that the apply button, uh, it'll immediately say, are you an educator or are you a volunteer? If you have any questions, please contact Rebecca White, who's the CEO of Engineers of Tomorrow, and there are her coordinates. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Don. I did add a link to eir.ca in the chat for people to grab it quickly. And if you like, Don, feel free to add Rebecca's contact information in the chat too, so people can grab it.
Okay, good idea.
But thank you for that. I am in tech myself. I work as a digital transformation consultant, and I see how much and I would love to advocate to get more women into STEM. I see that we don't have that many women in tech, for example, so it's great to see that there is focus on that with the EIR program to introduce more girls to engineering, to STEM at a young age. And boys too. I'm just speaking from my own experiences with two daughters. I love to see programs think about that side of things. Now, you talked about getting volunteers, engineers to volunteer, teachers to sign up for the program. Can you give some examples of what is covered as part of the education, the workshop, the sessions that are run? I know you were talking earlier about some practical courses, hands-on sessions that you do as part of the program. Could you share some of that with us here?
Sure. So I think as a general rule, well, it's very important the first meeting between, again, I'll say the engineer, but it doesn't have to be an engineer. It could be anyone with a technical background who's interested in doing this kind of thing. Uh, the meeting between the engineer and the teacher, where the teacher says, here's what I'd like, and the engineer says, here's what I can provide, and they find a common ground. So in some cases, it's the engineer is telling them about their career, which may be, you know, aeronautical engineering, it may be designing spacecraft, it may be biomedical engineering, it may be structural, who knows? Engineering is so broad.
Mhm.
And and so one thing that captivates students very often is when a visitor comes into the classroom and tells the students about here's what I do. And these are real world problems that help society. So sometimes it's like that, or and I showed you the picture of the girls who were so excited. That was actually the engineering challenge. And the engineering challenge, we're very lucky to have it in the National Capital Region, and it's defined by the National Research Council. And they have three challenges, and every 3 years they cycle through the three challenges. And I'm using the past tense, and the reason for that is that this year the challenge was an egg drop. And I've done the egg drop a few times, and it's fun. But for one thing, we wasted dozens of eggs, which I don't think we should be doing. And for another thing, arguably, there's a large component of luck involved in when you roll an egg down a, a ramp that's on a 6 foot ladder and it falls on the floor and rolls a bit, whether you break your egg or not. If you break your egg, you're disqualified. So instead, this year we did something different. But the engineering challenge is exciting. And it's all about using recycled materials, zero cost, and the kids loved it. Very often, I'd arrive at the school in September, and we run the engineering challenge in January, February every year. And the kids would, two or three kids would say, Mr. Ball, when are we doing the engineering challenge? Well, in January, you've got a few months to wait. Oh, what's this year's challenge? They were so excited by it. But then the other thing is curriculum. And so I help teachers with curriculum. So in grade 6, I help with electricity and with space. I worked in the space industry for a long time, and I love doing space in grade 6 or flight. Um, grade 4, we do rocks and minerals, pulleys and gears. And so I'm helping the teachers with curriculum. So that's the kind of thing.
Okay, that's great. Sounds like the EIR program has a lot of suggestions for engineers or volunteers to use, but you can also customize as needed, right? Based on what you bring to the table.
Yes, at eir.ca, there's a button for resources. And there are lesson plans there that have been contributed by our volunteers. So they've been used in the classroom.
Mhm.
And if those lesson plans help, great. Um, if someone wants to take a lesson plan and modify it, great, no problem. Another thing we find is that, particularly in Ontario, I suspect in other provinces there's a similar picture, but in Ontario, in recent years, the curriculum has been updated a few times with an emphasis on coding, right down to grade 1, believe it or not. And a lot of teachers say, I don't know how to teach coding. How do I do? I'm here to help. So we do coding. And so, for example, we do Scratch Junior in kindergarten to grade 2.
Mhm.
And Scratch Junior is, you don't need to read for Scratch Junior, but it's very active, and the kids can record their voice into a program and see themselves flying an airplane, take a picture of their face. And we're careful about not putting voice recordings or pictures on the internet, but with Scratch Junior, it's not on the internet. It's on the Chromebook or the iPad, the device. And then so Scratch Junior is good for the younger ones.
Mhm.
And in fact, I showed it to a 4-year-old who loved it. For older ones, from again about grade 2, but once they can read up to, I think it's good up to grade 8 or beyond, perhaps, Scratch. And Scratch is an amazing tool that it's block oriented, so it's the user interface is very, very easy. Um, but it has all the features of an advanced programming language as well. It has, conditionals and
Mhm.
loops and variables and stuff like that. So the kids learn programming concepts, but it's also fantastic for art.
Mhm.
And there's a worldwide library of programs that you can search, no charge. So for example, in grade 5 in the human body, I like to show kids a program about the human body that was done by a student um, sometime in the past. And it's got a wealth of information about all the systems of the human body. So, uh, uh, Scratch is an amazing tool for STEAM.
So much easier to learn coding these days. It's
Yeah.
amazing compared to when I was much younger. Much
Yeah.
easier. So I wanted to ask you one more question before I open it up to the others. Why does this EIR program matter to you? Why did you choose to volunteer with EIR yourself?
So I was self-employed, and I think I was 61. So, but I wasn't ready to retire, and my revenue dropped for reasons beyond my control. And I was trying to get new clients and trying to get new clients. But when you're, in my experience, you know, when you get older, it's harder to find new clients. It's really hard. And some friends and my wife tell me I was kind of hard to live with those days. And and whoa, all of a sudden I get an email from this engineering organization that says, would anybody like to volunteer in classrooms? Yeah, I'd like to try that. And that was 14 years ago. And since then, I love it. And the feedback I get from teachers and students and principals and even parents sometimes is wonderful. But I don't do it for the feedback. I do it because I love it. Very often I'll be in the schoolyard, and some little voices will say, "Hi, Mr. Ball, are you coming to our class today?" And I'll say, "Not today, but next week." "Oh, not till next week." And I even had recently, I had an experience where one of the educational assistants who's in the classroom, but not a teacher, but the educational assistants kind of help people who have special needs with teaching or something. So this is a young woman, and I in the staff room, she said, "Mr. Ball, are you coming to my class today?" And I said, well, I've had that question from students, but this is the first time I've had it from an adult. It was fun. We all have a good time when I'm in the classroom.
Great. Thank you, Don. Does anyone else have questions for Don right now?
Hi, Don, it's Lee. Just a quick question because someone asked if there was activity east of Ontario and obviously Quebec. I guess one of the challenges here in Quebec is the language issue. So I know there's a strong engineering presence in Montreal in École Polytechnique in the French sector. Have you had any exposure to any of the engineers in the French sector to date?
Yeah, a few years ago, there were a few, and I was in touch with them a little bit. Um, we, and I worked a lot. I worked with the Canadian Space Agency for many years, and there was an engineer who was working for the space agency. Um, I've lost touch with those people. I'm not sure what's happened. The um, it's a volunteer program, and people come and people go. Some stay. I'm not the oldest engineer. There's at least two I know that have been in the program for more than 20 years. And I know another engineer who started about the two other engineers who started about the same time I did, 14 years ago. So I I'd like to say that we have more penetration in Quebec, and I'm uh, not fully bilingual, but I'm functionally, I say functionally bilingual. I'd be happy to talk to people about it. We have meetings periodically. We provide mentorship to new engineers and teachers, and we try and share learnings. Uh, so I'm not sure when people leave, it's a shame, but I guess they have their own reasons.
Thank you.
Is there anything we can do to help bring in more schools, get more schools involved?
Well, I think it's a lot about networking and about promotion and marketing, and I'm sure you could help.
We
And
can add it to our CLT website, Micah.
Absolutely, for sure.
Hello, Mr. Ball. My name is Jason Bixby. I'm calling from Montreal, and I work for the English Montreal School Board. This is something that I'm sure that our board would love to avail of. I myself am the STEAM consultant at the school board, actually, so this is right up my alley. But I'm going to ask you an indiscreet question that many people in the public sector has to ask. What kind of a cost would be incurred if we wanted to avail of this type of service?
do you believe zero? In fact, we bring a small budget with us. So don't worry about cost.
Well, that's a good answer if I've ever heard one.
Yeah.
Jason, sorry, it's Leroy Cogan. Are you with EMSMB or the Lester Pearson School Board, or neither?
I'm with the EMSB.
Okay. One of the things that in my past life, I'm an ex-Bell employee, and we used to have regional science fairs, and I'm sure you're probably familiar with those.
Yes, I am. Yes, yes.
I think that might be an excellent opportunity at those regional science fairs if maybe the engineers of tomorrow could set up a kiosk or table volunteer and make the students aware because a lot of those older students, typically in the science fair, have siblings that are coming up, then they would maybe pass on the message to their siblings that this is available. So just as a thought, maybe something we could consider as well.
I'll
Lee, sorry, Lee, what month is that?
Now, now you're testing my memory. I've been retired now for like over 8 years, so that typically is in the springtime, late springtime, if memory serves me correct.
So about now,
They
right?
have they have the local funds, and then they have the regional science fairs all across the province, and then they go to the finals. And quite honestly, some of the projects that the students bring to these science fairs, they're amazing. We actually have companies that go there and recruit potential engineers for future use.
I see in the chat, Valerie says, I think a concern for us at the school board would be having schools be interested, but not having the engineers in Montreal. Um, well, there's a Engineers of Tomorrow. I've been working with them for a long time, and Bruce on the call is on the board of both CLT and Engineers of Tomorrow. Thank you, Bruce. Um, so Engineers of Tomorrow have a challenge to find engineers in an area where they have schools that would like an engineer, and vice versa. But in Montreal, there are many, many, many engineers, of course. So uh, kind of unrelated, but I was recently invited to go to a STEM day by the Ottawa Catholic School Board. So I did. And I was representing Engineers of Tomorrow. And if there's a day that, we might be able to meet um, either engineers or teachers or both, I wouldn't mind going to Montreal. And um, I'm sure others at Engineers of Tomorrow would be interested.
I'll jump in here and support Don here. Yes, I'm on the board of Engineers of Tomorrow. Been on for a couple of years now, and one of the reasons why I was looking for a national organization that would have some credibility, so I could use when I went out and promoted my ideas with regards to STEM in Saskatchewan. And they certainly have added relevance and prestige to myself when I walk into the door of the superintendent of a school board, because there are national. And when Jason says, "Well, what cost is there?" Again, I'll stand behind Don. There is zero cost, and that always pushes people back in their chair. What do you mean zero cost? So everything comes with a cost. But what I'm finding is that there is a general lack of folks with a good STEM foundation. Certainly in the resource sector in Saskatchewan, I was asked to do a STEM presentation for the Northern Lights School Division. And one of the things that I found in my research was that the resource sector in Saskatchewan is booming. And if you haven't heard about it, I will not going to be too long before you will hear about the uranium and potash and all of that. I found that the demand for STEM related positions is running about 400 per year for the next 10 years. So Saskatchewan School Division, USask, they are not going to be graduating that level of people unless they start exposing people to STEM, to engineering, to skills in the lower grades. So that is not lost on the resource sector. So they said, if somebody can start exposing kids to STEM and get more traction in going into engineering, that's going to benefit us. So how can we help financially? So, we're right now we're struggling with trying to get at EOT get a program together so that we can present it to the resource sector so that they will be able to take some of their corporate social responsibility money and apply it to us so that we can be more robust in the economy here and do some things that might cost something, but we don't want to impose that cost on the school boards on any of that because they just don't have the money. They're scrimping and saving as it is. You talk about lack of available engineers. That's also a problem here in Saskatchewan. So I've got a couple of resources that are probably replicated in all the provinces. I went to the APEGS, the Association of Professional Engineers of Saskatchewan. They are the regulator for all engineers. So they have the name of all engineers in Saskatchewan. So I went down the street and I went to the Association of Consulting Engineering Companies. They also have access to all of the engineers in Saskatchewan. So if you're looking for engineers, those are two places to go. And the latter one, the Association of Consulting Engineers of Saskatchewan, they no municipality in Saskatchewan does any construction or design without having an engineer. That's built-in promotion in my view. So there are lots of engineers that just have to wait to be asked. Not everybody's going to say yes, but if you can get 50% to say yes, you got it covered.
Thank you, Bruce. Is this something that Rebecca and the engineers of tomorrow can help with? So for people like Jason and Valerie who might be interested in bringing on people to help with EIR or get involved themselves, how do they get started if they're in a place that doesn't have this program yet? Should they work through Rebecca? What's a good step?
Yeah, Rebecca would be a good resource to start with. She probably has a couple of connections nearby. If you can talk to somebody, just like we're doing with Dawn here, if we can talk to somebody that's already been exposed to it, that's going to help the new guys along.
Okay. So Jason and Valerie, Rebecca White's email address and phone numbers in the chat. And then Dawn is here as well. So it sounds like Dawn, you could potentially help. You're in Ottawa, very close to Montreal. Sounds like you might be willing to visit Montreal to perhaps help get something started there. So does that work for people here? If you don't have an EIR program where you are, you start with Rebecca and also reach out to Dawn.
Perfect. Thank you very much. That's very helpful for me.
I'm glad you're here. Yes?
I will put my email in the chat.
Okay, great.
Joe, did you have a question? I think you had your hand up.
I did, but it actually just got answered. I was asking a little more about individuals if the school or there's no actual STEM program near the academic institution, but literally it just got answered, so I lowered my hand.
Excellent.
That's great. So I've added another link to the chat, and then Dawn's email address is there. Thank you, Dawn.
Rebecca told us recently about a program, and the name escapes me. Bruce, maybe you remember what it was, but I think it was focusing on parts of Canada that are underserved, let's say, by EIR and underserved by STEM and STEAM knowledge too in general. So I think they want to they want to use virtual links, and like I say, virtual links aren't quite like in-person links, but they're a lot better than nothing too. So there are efforts to carry the program into places that are underserved.
Yeah, and that I think that may come under a pathways program that we're initiating. I mean, you just have to look at Canada, and lots of rural. You got to look at the Canadian Indigenous community. Where are they? They're not next door. Most of them are rural and in the north. So I've been trying to make some contacts through those areas as well, and getting really good feedback. And it's just unfortunate, we talk about science teachers. Um, you know, if you go to a small community in Saskatchewan that's got 500 people, 500, and maybe has 100 kids in school, you have a science teacher. If you're a good science teacher, you're probably in Saskatoon or Regina or North Battleford or PA, some of the larger areas. So you're really suffering. The smaller rural areas are suffering from lack of science skills, chemistry skills, those kind of skills. So if you can add value by popping in once or twice a year, or once or twice a month with a chemical engineer or a controls engineer or a civil engineer to kind of buoy up the teacher that's trying to teach science and trying to learn it and teach it at the same time. It generally is what happens. That gives them a big confidence boost. And if you can, like you're doing, Don, you're getting kids excited. And then you can ask the question, how would you like to do this for the next 40 years? Oh, that'd be wonderful. How can I do that? So you get excited in grade 4, and they get more excited in up to grade 8. They choose chemistry and physics and pre-calculus and all that sort of stuff, so they can get into in the post-secondary engineering colleges. You mentioned earlier about a lot of kids have never been exposed to engineering. I've got two female mentorship relationships. I have third year civils. One, the first time I sat down with her, she said, you're the only engineer I know. And she was in third year civil. It came from Melfort, Saskatchewan. So, I was kind of surprised by that. But both of them are convocating in about 10 days. So
Wow.
it's on the dean's list. So
Fantastic. And you're a mentor and a coach for them. It's amazing, Bruce. Thank you. Are there any other questions for Don right now about the EIR program?
Don, have you got any pushback from teachers not having educators in the room in the classroom, but having people that aren't teachers? We're hearing some of that.
I've been doing it for a long time, and I've worked with many teachers. And some teachers, if I'd like to visit their class, I have to email them 4 or 5 times. And I've usually, in a case like that, they say, "Oh, I'm sorry. I meant to answer you. I'm just so busy. And yes, please come to my class." But I've kind of decided that I don't want to work that hard to visit a classroom. I'd kind of like more pull than push. So I don't really want to push now. I also I had an experience this year where I've been doing space for a long time. And like I say, I was in the space industry and I love doing space. And this year one teacher said, well, I've got a slide deck and I want you to use my slide deck. So I looked at her slide deck, which came from it was a commercially available slide deck from the States. And it was a very good slide deck, but um, it wasn't mine. I didn't want, my nose was out of joint, frankly. I didn't want to be told you will present this, not what you had planned. And so I completely backed off. And then I got an email from the vice principal who was also teaching grade 6 space, who said, I want to have a meeting with me, her, the vice principal, and the teacher who had given me this instruction. And the teacher apologized profusely for having told me that. And, oh, I didn't mean it that way. I'm sorry. And I did do space, and it went very well. So it's not for everybody. It's not for all engineers. It's not for all teachers. It's a little bit like online dating, and I have no idea about online dating. It hadn't been invented when I got married. But sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. When it works, it's beautiful. When it doesn't, well, try somebody else.
Okay. So I'm mindful of time. So I know, Dawn, you wanted to share with us a little bit about Climate Fresk too, right? Because you volunteer with Climate Fresk. You're going to come back to join us sometime later this year to share with us about how we can all get involved with Climate Fresk too. But would you like to take a couple of minutes to quickly introduce it today, just get us prepared?
Yeah, just a teaser. Yes, please. Micah, could you put up that slide, please? So Climate Fresk is an international non-government organization based in France, and it was invented by this professor who was putting all kinds of charts and graphs on the wall and drawing lines between them, and he was making a fresco. And a fresco is art on the wall, right? Well, in French, that's F-R-E-S-Q-U-E. So when they anglicized it, they thought F-R-E-S-K. Anglophones will know what that means, but Anglophones have no idea what that means. But that's where the word fresk comes from. And the participants use an innovative card game to collaboratively discover the science and impacts of climate change and then explore actions to combat climate change. And since late 2018, this workshop there's a few variants, but it's been given to more than 2.1 million participants around the world in 167 countries in 45 languages. Isn't that incredible? I have to say that in France, the numbers are higher than most other countries, and there are 94,000 volunteer facilitators. For more information, the international website is climatefresk.org, or there's a Climate Fresk Canada website at the URL at the bottom. And I'd be happy to come back if you're interested to tell you more about Climate Fresk. I'm just as passionate about it as I am about EIR.
Well, these are wonderful stats. So yes, I would love to have you come back to talk about Climate Fresk.
Thank you very much.
Micah. So thank you, Dawn. Any questions, any other comments for Dawn, or anyone here want to talk about anything related to STEM? Yes, Lee? Oh, I thought it's your hand.
I was just going to say thanks very much. Really, really appreciate it, and certainly look forward to getting more information. The first thing I'm going to do when I get off this call is go visit that website.
Please look at the bit.ly website of Climate Fresk Canada also.
Will do.
Would you like
And-
to add the link?
Very much.
Oh, I missed that.
I
Yes,
was just
thank-
going to say
Oh,
thank
yes.
you very much appreciate the overview and the background, and especially reading a little bit more even about your journey throughout all different facets and industries that you've worked in. It's really exciting, and thank you very much for sharing.
You're very welcome. Thank you for the opportunity. Can I just mention that if you go to the Climate Fresk website, there's some information about where the next Climate Fresk workshop will be. Now, this is an international website, so the next one might be in Singapore, or it might be in New Delhi or Berlin, but there's a mechanism there for setting a filter. And you can say, I'd like it to be within 50 kilometers of Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. So that's kind of neat.
That's great. I've added a link to the Climate Fresk website in the chat, but we will have Dawn come back and talk about the program in more depth. So I do want to, again, thank you, Dawn. Thank you for joining us today and for sharing all about your all your volunteerism and encouraging us to join you too. It's really appreciate it. And it's wonderful seeing all that you've done to encourage more children, more students, more people to consider engineering and STEM and STEAM. Now, we'd love to stay in touch with all of you. So Micah, at some point after this webinar, Micah is going to be sending out the recording so that you have it and you can share it with others too. We'll also be posting the recording on the CLT website, and you can go there to find out more information. Now, our CLT website is under construction. We're working on a new website, fully revamped, redesigned. It'll be very exciting to see the new website. So stay tuned. You should see it in a few months' time. Is there anything else you wanted to share, Micah, before we drop?
No, just watch for the recording. I'll be sending it out to everybody.
Okay, I'm going to add the CLT link to the chat again, in case those who joined later missed it. Any other final comments from anyone here?
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Dawn. Thanks for being here. So thank you all.